Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Vegan diets are becoming more and more popular, and they're pretty healthy. They're high in fiber, and that's good for the colon, of course, but that also feeds your healthy probiotic bacteria, your microbiome. They're high in folate, a B vitamin that's been known to lower the risk of heart disease and certain cancers. They're high in vitamin C and vitamin E, which are very protective for your vision and your memory and your brain. Vitamin K, which keeps your blood vessel walls nice and clean and free of plaque, but also builds strong bones. Potassium and magnesium that help keep you alkaline and do so many wonderful things for the human body. Carotenoids, polyphenols. They're low in saturated fat, which is the major artery clogger that leads to heart disease. There's a strong tendency in vegans to be thinner, to have low cholesterol, lower blood pressure, a better microbiome according to a lot of new research. Hi, my name is Jerry Hickey. I'm a nutritional pharmacist. I'm also the senior scientific officer over here at Invite Health, which indicates we have a scientific department which is made up of nutritionists, dietitians, and naturopathic doctors, and a couple of pharmacist nutritionists also. In any event, today's episode is vegan diets, filling in the holes, because there are some nutritional holes in there, but it's easy to fix that. Now, I'm mostly vegetarian. I do eat organic eggs from time to time. I do eat yogurt from time to time, and I do eat fish from time to time. Eliminating all animal products from your diet does increase your risk of certain nutritional deficiencies, but these could be fixed. Special concerns are for vitamin B12, vitamin D, calcium, omega-3 fatty acids, sometimes iron and zinc. However, compared to other diets, including vegetarian diets, veganism reduces your risk of heart disease, which of course reduces your risk of stroke, heart attack, poor kidney function, and problems with the brain and memory, and even Alzheimer's. Reduced risk of diabetes, which is very good. A reduced risk of high blood pressure, reducing your risk of some cancers, reducing your risk of an ischemic stroke, but sadly there may be a slight increased risk of a bleeding stroke. We'll talk about that later in the episode. But also, hey, vegans are generally not obese, where so many other people are. So my first consideration are the omega-3 fatty acids. Normally people get omega-3 fatty acids from a krill oil supplement or a fish oil supplement, or from eating fish or mussels. Mussels are a good source. So what do vegans do? Well, there are sources of omega-3 fatty acids. Walnuts and flaxseed are commendable, but also the algal sourced omega-3 fatty acids from spirulina and chlorella. And of course, these foods have many other good nutrients in them. For instance, flaxseed is a good source of omega-3 and omega-6 and omega-9 fatty acids. The omega-9 are similar to the fatty acids in olives, but it's also a good source of protein, and it's also a good source of lignans. Lignans seem to have some real benefit for your heart health and lowering cholesterol. So mostly when you eat these foods, the vegan foods, you're getting alpha-linolenic acid. Now, the new research does show that, just like fish oils, alpha-linolenic acid is very protective for the heart. It doesn't really convert to EPA that well. EPA is a fatty acid in the brain that's really protective for the brain and protective for your vision. It doesn't transform well into, it transformed very poorly, as a matter of fact, into DHA, which is the other major oil in fish oil capsules or eating fish. DHA is very important for your memory and for heart health. There is some evidence that if you have some turmeric. Turmeric, curcuma longa is the Latin binomial name. People know it for curcumin. That you do translate the alpha-linolenic acid into some EPA and DHA, so that might be helpful. However, just getting the alpha-linolenic acid is good, but if you can get supplements of algal source DHA at this point, and I would recommend that. You really need some for your brain. Studies show that people who have about 100 to 200 milligrams of DHA every day reduce their risk of Alzheimer's disease by 36%. That's noteworthy. Now, beyond the fish oils, the omega-3 fatty acids that are replaceable, B12 may be an issue. B12 is needed for healthy red blood cells. You need it to make hemoglobin. That's the oxygen-carrying component of your red blood cells. If you lack B12, it can affect your brain. In fact, there are studies showing that if you lack B12, your brain can shrink. You could go into mild cognitive impairment. Mild cognitive impairment is sort of the prodromal stage before Alzheimer's disease. And mild cognitive impairment, which happens in older people, it doesn't happen in younger people. But in people over 60, about 20-25% of them, up to that amount, can go into mild cognitive impairment. Partially, it's a lack of vitamin B12. What happens, the brain is shrinking, you're losing memory cells, and you're having trouble understanding complex things, like you get a new car and you're having trouble figuring out the GPS system or the new stereo system. You get your new high definition TV and the same issues happening. You get a new cell phone, how do you load the apps, etc. The problem with that, you can still function, obviously, in general. You can still live at home. The problem is about 80% of people who develop mild cognitive impairment will drift into Alzheimer's disease eventually. That's why I call it a prodromal stage. However, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and fish oils tend to interact to help prevent mild cognitive impairment. Now, I'm not saying that there's an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease in people who are vegan. I haven't seen any data for that. I'm just saying these happen to be 3 nutrients you really have to pay attention to if you're vegan. But you can. It's easy. I would take supplements. There's always gaps in any diet, whether you're an omnivore or vegetarian or vegan. There's always gaps in the diet. I always think that a good multivitamin is a source of a lot of things that could go wrong, a lot of gaps in the diet. I think it's just a really smart thing to do. I think just most people will really benefit from a multivitamin. There are survival proteins and enzymes in the human body, and there are longevity proteins and enzymes in the human body. If you're lacking any key nutrient, you're just focusing on the survival proteins and enzymes, and not on the longevity ones. The body needs a little bit more of these nutrients to really enhance a longer, healthier life. We talk about lifespan. We also talk about health span. You want to live long, but you want to retain your health over that time period. So I tell people, everyone basically, get a multivitamin. You'll fill in the gaps in your diet, and you'll be safe. A well-made multivitamin. Try to get, if you get a multivitamin, make sure the vitamin E is natural, not that vegetarians are lacking vitamin E. Make sure that the beta-carotene is natural. But once again, vegetarians don't have to worry about beta-carotene, but other people are listening too to this episode. So if you lack vitamin B12, you can have brain shrinkage, but you also become kind of like weak and numb. It affects your muscles. It affects your nerves. You can also develop high levels of homocysteine. It's an amino acid intermediary in your blood, and if it gets high, it's connected to damage to the back of the eyes, it's connected to depression, it's connected to Alzheimer's disease, it's connected to heart disease and heart attacks, it's connected to hip fractures and weakened bones, so you don't want that. And damage to your nerve endings, you don't want that. You need to make sure you're getting B12, but simply taking a multivitamin will make sure you're getting some B12. You don't need a lot of B12. The body does not require a lot, and it'll store the excess in the liver, so there you go, you have some for the future. Now, vitamin D3 is also an issue. There may be vegan vitamin D3s coming on the market. Usually vitamin D3 is made out of lanolin that they irradiate. And that's not an issue because that's how you make it in your skin, the same way. The problem is that D2 doesn't seem to be as effective, nor does its effects last as long in the human body, according to about 3 or 4 studies I've seen. The type of vitamin D you get when you eat a vegan diet is vitamin D2, which is called ergocalciferol. D3 is cholecalciferol. So D3 does seem to be superior. My recommendation, well, you know what? Eat more mushrooms and get more D2 and just try and make up for it until they come out with a vegan source of D3. I'm not saying that you should go and have a non-vegan D3. I wrote notes, so that's what you're hearing in the background, because there's a lot of nutrients I want to talk about. Taurine. Now, this is a really important one. Taurine is a sulfhydryl amino acid. Normally, amino acids come from protein, but not necessarily taurine. So vegetable proteins don't have taurine. But you need taurine. It helps prevent gallstones and kidney stones. Taurine is needed to make your bile acids that digest fats, so you can absorb fats. Taurine is needed for your muscle function. It's an incredibly powerful antioxidant. Taurine is needed for good brain function. It works with magnesium in both your brain and your eyes. Taurine and magnesium help control the rate of your heartbeat, which is called your pulse, and it also controls your blood pressure. Studies show that lacking taurine strongly increases your risk of having a stroke or heart attack. And vegetarian diets are lacking taurine. I would definitely take a taurine supplement every day. 500 to 1,000 milligrams a day is plenty. The reason being, taurine is really only found in seafood, poultry, and dairy products, and you're not having those. Now, B vitamins like vitamin B6 and vitamin B2, riboflavin, they're needed for heart health, they're needed for energy production, they're needed for vision, they're needed for lowering the risk of cancers. Simple. Just your multivitamin. And it doesn't have to be super duper, it just has to be a good quality. Amino acids. Well, get a protein. Amino acids do many things in the human body. Amino acids like threonine help you create white blood cells to kill viruses and cancer cells. Amino acids help build you. They make your enzymes. They make a lot of hormones. I mean, they make so many things in the human body. You're basically made out of protein. So people who are vegetarian and not eating fish and meat tend to get fewer amino acids, and they tend to lack certain amino acids. Mix your proteins. Mix your pumpkin protein with pea protein and rice protein to make a more perfect protein source, and also some soy protein, because you're not having whey. Creatine monohydrate. People know creatine monohydrate from all those bodybuilders. They take it in the gym, but they're taking everything. Vegans lack creatine. When you give an omnivore creatine, it gives their brain energy. So we're not even talking about energizing your heart or your muscles, because your heart's a muscle. We're just talking about the brain here. When you give an omnivore creatine, it tends to improve their brain energy. But when you give a vegan, even a vegetarian, creatine, it improves their brain energy, but it also helps restore energy for their memory. Their memory tends to improve. So there are vegan creatines on the market. We have one, as a matter of fact. I would take a half a scoop a day, should be plenty. Mix it in some water. It tastes very pleasant. Zinc. This is an issue. Not all vegetarians are lacking zinc, but many are. You need zinc for so many things. And a double whammy with zinc is that it becomes harder to absorb with age. So older vegans, there can be a zinc deficiency, and you could get zinc without any food source in it. So that's not an issue. I would take a zinc supplement. If zinc is needed for so many things. There's so many important enzymes in the body that do not work if you lack zinc. You need zinc for thyroid function, for your metabolism. You need zinc to protect your brain. Zinc interacts with a super antioxidant called superoxide dismutase type 1 and 3 to protect your brain from free radicals. Zinc is needed in the eyes to reduce your risk of cataracts and age-related macular degeneration, eye diseases that have a trend to occur after the age of like 55. You need zinc to digest your food. Your pancreas requires zinc to release enzymes to digest your food. So even being just a little bit low in zinc can affect your digestion. The pancreas requires zinc to release both insulin and glucagon to balance your blood sugar. That's not just magnesium that's required by the pancreas. It also requires zinc. Zinc is needed to keep your arteries and your heart clean. Zinc is needed by the immune system to kill viruses and bacteria. Zinc is poison to cancer cells. If you could get zinc inside a cancer cell, it just dies. So you can't do without zinc. You have to have zinc. And you need it for your skin, your nails, your hair. So I recommend that you get a multivitamin with at least 15 milligrams of zinc in it. Choline. You can get choline from beans. Choline, if you lack it, you could develop fatty liver. You develop muscle damage and nerve damage. But it's incredibly important for brain function because you have to make something called acetylcholine. If you lack acetylcholine, you can't repair your brain every night. You can't create new memory cells every night when you go to sleep. And that's tragic because you're losing memory cells every day. So it will affect your memory. It will affect the ability to repair the brain. It will affect your ability to plan and organize and solve riddles and problems. But you can get phosphatidylcholine from soy products. So make sure you're getting some soy products. So like I said, all of these things are solvable. You can actually get phosphatidylcholine supplements, and taking 1 or 2 capsules a day is a good idea. Sometimes vegans are lacking calcium. If you lack both calcium and vitamin D, you could develop vertigo. Obviously, it could affect your bones. But you have an increased risk of colon cancer and breast cancer. Calcium is needed to prevent colon cancer and breast cancer. It's needed for proper smooth function of the heart and your muscles and your nerves. It's needed for brain energy. So just make sure somehow you're focusing on calcium because you don't want to lose bone. And the truth of the matter is, in the research I read, vegans don't seem to suffer from osteoporosis and osteopenia, bone loss. There is an issue with iron. The best absorbed iron is found in meat. It's called heme iron. The iron in vegetables is very poorly absorbed. The iron in vegetarian sources is poorly absorbed. Not to mention there are things typically in vegetables like phytates that can block the absorption of iron. So one thing you could do is take something rich in vitamin C while you're eating iron-rich foods, because vitamin C will help improve the absorption of the iron. This is because it blocks the effects of things like phytates from blocking the absorption of iron. But you may want to get a source of iron and take it once or twice a week if you're starting to feel run down or if you're starting to develop anemia, because anemia could be quite dangerous. Iodine, this is really an issue, but it's easy to make up for. Your multivitamin can have iodine in it. You require 150 micrograms a day. But also, you could get it from seaweed. But don't overdo the seaweed. Iodine is needed for breast health, but iodine is also needed for your thyroid. And without your thyroid, you can't make thyroid hormones. So you become fatigued, your bad cholesterol goes up, your good cholesterol goes down, you become inflamed. It's just not good. It's just not good. You develop heart problems, thinking problems. So you can get iodine in your multivitamin. You could get iodine, of course, in iodized salt, but you're not going to get enough because you're not going to use that much salt, hopefully. But you could get it from seaweed. Don't overdo the seaweed, because then you could get too much iodine, and then you'll get overactive thyroid, which is called hyperthyroidism. Carnitine. This is important. Carnitine is named after carnivore. Carnitine is needed to create a fatty acid out of your food called acetylcoenzyme A, which is a major source of energy in the human body. But carnitine is also converted into acetyl L-carnitine for really a good working brain, a good mood, a healthy brain, an energetic brain. You can take an Alcar supplement, and that's what I would recommend. Take an Alcar supplement, because that'll really get into your brain and your nerves. and for your hearing, etc. It's very good for your central nervous system. Carnosine, now that's also named after carnivores. It's a combination of two amino acids, histidine and beta-alanine. And it's important for your brain. It helps protect the little blood vessels in your brain. We all develop a little bit of microvascular damage by the time we're in our 70s. And every little blood vessel in the brain, called a capillary, feeds a whole group of brain cells. So when you lose one capillary, you lose a cluster of memory cells and brain cells. Not a good thing. Carnosine defends these little blood vessels in the brain. It's also important for brain energy and is a very powerful antioxidant, anti-inflammatory agent in your brain. It's also important for muscle function. It's also important for your heart. It's also extremely important for protecting your kidneys. In fact, there's some data indicating that people with type 2 diabetes that develop a drop in their kidney function simply are burning through their carnosine too quickly. It's not a bad idea to take a carnosine supplement every morning with your breakfast. Zinc. We already covered zinc. Sorry about that. Now, what are some of my favorite vegetables? I tell you, if there was a feast in front of me, I go for the beans and I go for the vegetables. I just love their flavor. There are certain things I think you really need to have in a vegetarian diet. Mushrooms. I would have mushrooms 3-4 days a week. And it could be any kind of mushroom, basically. Mushrooms reduce your risk of mild cognitive impairment. Mild cognitive impairment is when the brain shrinks somewhat and it's not functioning well. We spoke about it before, earlier in the program. With mild cognitive impairment, you could slip into Alzheimer's disease. Not that I've seen a report that vegans are more at risk for Alzheimer's disease. In fact, they may be at lower risk. But mushrooms have been shown to dramatically lower your risk of mild cognitive impairment, but they also are a source of vitamin D2. They're also the source of probably the most potent antioxidant that we know of, ergothioneine. And they're also a source of beta-glucans. Beta-glucans are a type of fiber that help your immune system function to fight off viruses and bacteria and possibly cancer cells. Beta-glucan seems to help lower your cholesterol and your blood sugar. There's a lot of benefits to eating mushrooms. And like I said, there's vitamin D2 in mushrooms. Green tea. Get it organic, because in places where they grow green tea, they have to spray for mosquitoes, so they tend to use a lot of DDT, and DDT has a 50-year half-life. DDT builds up in your body, and any DDT you take in today, half of it will still be present 50 years from now. So if you're taking in DDT every day, it builds up in the system, and it's very toxic. Green tea, organic, and squeeze a little citrus into it, or vitamin C, because they protect the green tea polyphenols. These are the active components in green tea that really shield your body from so many conditions. They get broken down by your digestive tract. If you add like lemon, a little squeeze of lemon, that'll shield these polyphenols, and you'll absorb a lot more of them intact. And green tea has been shown to lower the risk of certain cancers. Breast cancer, there's pretty good data. Prostate cancer, a lot of data. And colon cancer. Green tea has been shown to lower the risk of developing frailty syndrome as you grow older. There's a lot of data on this. It's involved with longevity. Your length of time that you stay healthy, as well as the length of time you stay on top of the planet. But it's also been shown to enhance muscle formation. It's not unusual for vegans to lose muscle. It's also important for bone health. The other thing is cooked cabbage vegetables, the cruciferous vegetables. It could be any of them. Bok choy. It could be broccoli rabe. It could be broccoli or you name it. You name it. Cabbage, cauliflower. Don't do a lot of Brussels sprouts, because they tend to concentrate arsenic in them. So I love Brussels sprouts, but I only have them like once a month, because they do concentrate arsenic out of soil. So pick your other cabbage vegetables. Cook them, because if you don't cook them, they increase your risk of developing a low-functioning thyroid, hypothyroidism, because there's goitrogens in them. And when you cook them, you remove the goitrogens. And have them fewer than 6 times a week, because even if you cook them, there's still a little bit of goitrogen in there. It can still contribute to developing a low-functioning thyroid. You definitely don't want that. So thank you for tuning into the Invite Health Podcast. You can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts, or you could visit invitehealth.com/podcast. Please subscribe. Please leave me a review. I'd really like to know how I'm doing. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. I hope to see you another time on another episode of the Invite Health Podcast, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good day.